Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to come to our third session, which is a great friend and colleague of mine, Janusz. Janusz is part of the agency coach. He'll talk all about himself in a second. And he's going to provide some really interesting insights on what makes a great leader and what makes great business. So over to you, Janusz.
Lovely. Thanks, Anne. Firstly, it's good to be virtually back in Leicester. I guess I'm Leicester born and bred, so I kind of feel like I'm back home, albeit through the medium of video at the moment. As Anne said, my name's Janusz Stabik. I'm a coach and mentor, I guess, working with digital agency leaders. I help agencies essentially to make more money, to build and manage better teams, to grow, to exit, all that kind of stuff. I'm an ex-agency owner and lead coach of a consultancy called the GYDA initiative, the Grow Your Digital Agency initiative. Now, you're going to learn absolutely nothing today about digital marketing whatsoever. I'm not a technician. I help agencies, small businesses, entrepreneurs or leader managers with growth. And if any of the following is true, then perhaps stick around. Do you have multiple fledgling businesses? Do you get that kind of kick to start up a new business and start new ventures, start new projects? Do you drop internal projects if you don't see results quickly? You're really good at getting things off the ground, getting things started. But then if you don't see results immediately, do you drop it? Do you sign up for that gym membership on the 1st of January and find by the middle of February that you're not using it anymore? Do you change your brand, your value proposition, your positioning regularly for your business to adapt to opportunities that come your way, adapt to kind of market needs? Do you continue to change because you see the opportunity and you feel the need to change? Do you do everything for everybody? You know, you're in a business that kind of is really fearful about targeting on a niche, a vertical, a segment, about really being really specific with your positioning. Do you find it difficult to stick to regular meetings? Does the thought of a weekly project planning meeting at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, or a finance and invoicing meeting at 3 p.m. on a Friday just fill you with dread? You know, would you rather just do things by the skin of your pants? Do you call yourself an entrepreneur? You know, would you consider yourself entrepreneurial? Do you always focus on that important and urgent stuff? Sounds a bit daft for me to say that, but you're always firefighting, always dealing with the stuff that's kind of sitting in front of you. You're constantly fantasizing about new business ventures and ideas. Are you in the shower in the morning, or are you walking your dog, constantly thinking about and get excited about what's next? Do you find yourself constantly reinventing the wheel? Or, you know, we're in a technical business, I guess. Do you just love introducing new software and systems just because of the technology? And if any of this is you, I think you might get something useful from today's talk. It's about looking at what the high performers, and that's the high performing businesses, the high performing leaders, do differently to the rest. And this is based on a ton of research and also my own anecdotal evidence, I guess, from working with about 250 agencies over the past few years across the globe. Awesome piece of research by a guy called David Story called The 4%ers. He looked at what is it that these guys, the 4%, the gazelles, you know, the Facebooks, the Dropboxes, the Amazons, what do they do differently? What do the leaders of those businesses do differently to everybody else, to the 63% that plod along and get steady growth, and these bottom cohorts, the 21% that are vulnerable, or those that kind of cease trading or die painfully? What is it that these guys do differently? And therefore, as a consequence, how can we mimic them? And this is absolutely true, 100% true, with those agencies that I work with that leap ahead like a gazelle. And the reality is, it's not about being the smartest. I haven't met an agency owner or a business owner yet that isn't 20 times more intelligent than me, that isn't super smart. The reality is that those agencies that take the biggest step forward, they're not always headed up by the smartest people. There are a ton of smart, really clever people around running businesses that have plateaued, that are firefighting, that are treading water. It's not about being the fastest. You don't have to be the first to market with your product, with your service, the commercial landscape is littered with successful organizations who are second or third to the party. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't even have to be the best. You don't have to have the best product or service. I could set up a website on Squarespace today and compete with any of you guys. I could position myself to be an awesome agency. And if that message resonates with the audience more than yours, without having any credibility, without having a team, a system, a process behind me whatsoever, I'm likely to succeed. Marketing is more about perception than it is reality. So those 4%ers, the gazelles, what they do differently, they're not the cleverest, they're not the fastest, they're not even the best. But what they're able to do is the dull and boring stuff really, really, really well. I love this story from a guy called James Clear, who wrote a book called Atomic Habits. And he said the difference between people who hit the gym and Olympic weightlifters is that they can handle the boredom of training every single day, doing the same lifts over and over again. He was stood in a gym and he was sat next to a personal trainer who's training an Olympic athlete. And he said, what makes them different to me? Is it genetics? Is it something in the DNA that just enables them to be a better athlete? And his personal trainer said, no, not at all. This guy is just happy to come into the gym at 6 a.m. and lift the same weights over and over and over and over again, then go home and eat chicken and broccoli, chicken and broccoli, chicken and broccoli, and do the same thing the next day and the same thing the next day. And the reality is that that's the same thing within businesses. We're headed up by entrepreneurs. We're great at getting things going, but the monotony of the dull and boring stuff that moves us forward towards a consistent goal is often what's lacking. The greatest threat to your success, it's not failure, it's not competition, it's not anything like that, but it's your ability to handle boredom. And I'm speaking from experience here. So I'm an ex-agency owner now helping other agency owners with growth. My first agency was an absolute failure. We grew incredibly quickly. I found that people bought from me. I found that I was able to motivate and lead a team and get them to follow me. So we grew really, really quickly. I got really excited. As a consequence, I changed the value proposition as new opportunities arrived at my door. We constantly took on projects outside of our core focus. We said yes to everything. And I felt successful at this point. My ego took over. I started multiple businesses. Check out Company's House. There's 5 or 6 different businesses there under my name. Only one of them has been successful. But I felt like, hey, I'm Richard Branson now. I've got a business. I can have 6 other brands doing different things, and none of them really were successful. We focused on no defined niche. We did everything for everybody. I hated looking at the numbers. The thought of viewing a spreadsheet and talking about it and having the same meeting with the same agenda every single week just filled me with dread, kept me up at night. I love doing things from scratch. I absolutely had a passion and a joy for coming in on a daily basis and ripping up the rule book and doing some new stuff. And as a consequence, I abdicated responsibility for running my business to the team. I said, here you go. You make this business a success. I'm going to be a whirlwind. I'm going to be a force of nature. And if the business isn't successful, it's your fault and not mine. Ultimately, I became a master of distraction. I distracted myself because I loved it and it gave me a kick. And those businesses were not successful. Ultimately, boredom won. Why? Let's dig a little deeper. Why is this the case? Why do those top 4%, those gazelles, why is it that they're able to be successful when the majority aren't? Well, it starts with us being entrepreneurial. You know, the fact that we're driven, that we have the energy, that we get things off the ground quickly, that's a huge positive in the early days. Yeah, it gets projects started. We can be starters and not finishers. And it gets customers to buy from us, and it gets employees to come and work from us. But it's that energy and drive that creates the biggest risk. It's a bit of a misnomer. We become addicted to opportunity. Every single opportunity that arrives at our door, we say yes to. We want to say yes. We like saying yes. We get a dopamine kick when we manage to sell to somebody. I did an interview with a guy called David C. Baker, who's an agency guru over in the States. And he says the opportunities that we say yes to as agencies, as creative businesses, it's akin to somebody walking into a plastic surgeon and saying, hey, I've got a broken arm. Can you fix it? And that plastic surgeon saying, yeah, sure. Take a seat in the waiting area. and we're just going to go and ready the operating theatre, and we'll call you in a minute. And then figuring out and reading books about how to do it whilst that guy with the broken arm is sat in reception is tantamount to negligence. We get addicted to opportunity. We say yes, 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 yes to stuff that sits outside of our core skill set. We stargaze, we get distracted, we love new stuff, we love new technology, we love new tools, we love new people, new things. And again, it's that horizon scanning that gets things started in the early days, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of distraction. And that distraction means that we never really have a plan, we never really have a strategy. And in the words of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will do. We wander, we meander, we don't move forward in any particular direction. We create storms, we become a hurricane. Yeah, we have this enormous amount of energy that kind of swirls around and keeps everybody busy and the energy high, but it moves us forward in no particular direction whatsoever. We behave like a hurricane, and we really want to be a jet engine, harnessing that power moving forward. And what that does is it makes us really busy. It makes us a really busy firefighter. We spend all of our time on stuff that's important and urgent. Again, it sounds a bit of a silly thing to say. There's always important, urgent stuff to do. And yes, we need to deal with it. But that box never gets empty. That box is filled with stuff that comes as a consequence of this hurricane that we've created. We need to be working on stuff that's important, not urgent. Yeah, but we don't. This hurricane mentality focuses us on working on firefighting type stuff. And to top it all off, even if all this stuff wasn't true, business growth isn't linear. So even if we were able to handle boredom and not be like that and be successful, the growth of a small business holds us back. As we grow, we employ more people. It makes us less productive. We need to change our shape of our organization. We need to change how we lead. We need to employ experienced people who we direct through, and we make a little bit less money because we need to pay them more money. It becomes a bit of a perfect storm. All of this stuff, this our entrepreneurial spirit, the fact that we have no plan, this hurricane that we create, the fact that we're constant stargazing, it just culminates in an absolute perfect storm. That means that the reality of the businesses that exist, 96% of them that exist, plod along, don't achieve that stratospheric growth. So what can we do? I've painted a very glum picture, all right? It's really miserable so far. 4% of agencies leap ahead. 4% of businesses leap ahead. The rest of us don't. What can we do about it? Well, again, we did some research. We looked at the 4%, that we looked at 550 of them and said, okay, it's your ability to handle boredom, the ability for you to be able to do the dull and boring stuff and harness your energy like a jet engine rather than a hurricane that enabled you to move you forward. Digging a little deeper, what does it mean? What are the traits that we can copy in order for us to apply it to our own businesses? We found two things. Firstly, those top 4% were absolutely strategy obsessed. Strategy. It was a word that was used over and over again, not just by the business leaders, but by everybody within the organization. And it wasn't a cliche. It wasn't a term that was thrown around to use to sound smart. It was something that everybody within the organization knew and understood. These businesses, they spent more time in box 2, more time doing stuff that's important and not urgent. Important and not urgent. The kind of stuff that sits on the to-do list and gets moved into mañana. The business strategy, the marketing plan, the systems and processes, that kind of stuff that ultimately in the medium and long term means that we have less stuff to do in box 1. And they followed some kind of strategic framework. I'm not going to bore you to death with strategic planning, but they had some kind of goal, some kind of mission. They understand what they needed to achieve as a business in order for them to achieve that vision. They broke that down into a series of key objectives, down into KPIs, and they rewarded their teams in alignment with those KPIs and those objectives. They did it, and it wasn't just a flash in the pan, all right? They didn't get it right first time. They used a strategic planning tool, and they repeated it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they became an absolute master of clarity of communication. Every single person within those businesses knew where that business was going, knew how it was going to get there, knew how what they did contributed to the growth of that business. The leader within those businesses was like Pep Guardiola. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, a constant bombardment of communication about strategy for the business that was clear and concise and easy to understand. It was top-down communication about strategy. It was bottom-up communication about strategy. It was cyclical. It was baked into weekly reviews. It was baked into one-to-ones. It was baked into quarterly planning sessions. It was strategy obsession at the top of the business, at the bottom of the business. Secondly, mindset. There's a complete difference between those 4%, those 550 gazelles, about how they approach things. They had a single-minded pursuit of a goal. They understood that they were stood on the top of a patch of land, and they wanted to dig for diamonds, and they knew that they would reach the diamonds if they kept digging. And they dug and dug and dug and dug and dug for 20 years until they reached those diamonds. They knew they had a diamond mine, a diamond mine, and they kept going and pursuing it and pursuing it and pursuing it. They said no when the prospector turned up at their door and said, "Hey, we'd like you to dig for gold a mile down the road." They said no to that, and they said, "No, we're a diamond mine. This is what we're good at, and we're going to get better at how we excavate. We're going to buy better machinery. We're going to use sharper teeth. We're going to employ better people. We're going to bring in expertise in diamonds and geology in order for us to eventually find those diamonds." They were concentrated their effort and their focus on those diamonds and just became awesome at doing it. And as a consequence, they understood, and I apologize for the cliche, they understood that it was a marathon and not a sprint. They understood that they wouldn't see results quickly, but through that single-minded doggedness, really, that they would reach those diamonds, that they would achieve their goal. Now, this isn't for everybody. Yeah, you might be looking at this going, "Oh, sod that." I haven't got the energy and the passion. And do you know what? That's absolutely true for many successful people, actually, as well. Mark Randolph, the founder of Netflix, said that the decision for him to step down as CEO was probably the best decision he ever made. And he did that really, really early on. He knew that what he was great at was chaos. He was great at getting that business off the ground, great at getting things moving, great at creating publicity and creating noise. But when he needed a leadership team, when he needed a board, when they needed to create a board paper and review it and constrain themselves to talking about 3 discussion points in a weekly board meeting only, and that they need to arrive at decision, that's not for him. You know, he thrived on energy, thrived on all that kind of entrepreneurial visionary type stuff that I mentioned before. So what can we do? We've got two approaches for you. What can we do about it? Because I have no doubt that you're awesome, that you know your shit, that you're driven, that you have desire, you have energy, you work harder than everybody else, you have all the ideas, you know all the people, you have the best product. I have no doubt that that's you. But do you have the resilience to do the same lifts over and over and over again? All right. Can you ultimately do this really, really dull and boring stuff? Can you have a strategy and a goal? If you want to win an Olympic medal, can you say, "I want to win that Olympic medal, and I have to go to the gym every single day and lift the same weight, doing the same lift over and over again, and eat chicken and broccoli for year after year after year after year"? Can you do that? Can you get up at 5 a.m. and do it? Can you stay focused on it? Can you say no to stuff that sits outside of your core skill set, that sits outside of what you're good at? Can you stay focused on that goal and say no to other stuff? Can you break it down and have objectives and stick to those objectives and just focus on them? And if it doesn't work, great, you get up and you go again the next quarter. Can you have regular meetings? Can you say, "This is what our week looks like. These are the times the meeting's going to happen. I'm always going to turn up. We're going to have an agenda. I'm going to chair that agenda. We're going to discuss one thing. We're going to make a decision and we're going to leave. And then the next day we're going to have the next meeting." Can you stick to that monotony, to that boredom? Can you have those meeting agendas and say no to stuff that sits outside of your skill set? Can you have KPIs? KPIs, the dreaded K word. Agencies love KPIs for their clients. We love measuring stuff. We love attribution. Yeah, that's all awesome. But KPIs for our business, bloody hell, that sounds a bit dull and a bit serious. Can you have this kind of stuff? Can you constantly focus on improvement and not revolution? Can you understand what you're good at, stick to it, and make every single bit of that business better and better over time? Because the reality is, as you grow, you need to innovate, you need to become better, you need to become more efficient, you need to become more productive. Just to stand still, bigger businesses are less productive and efficient than smaller businesses. You need to constantly get better and refine and sharpen that saw as you grow, just to be in the same position as you grow. Can you get up at 5 a.m. and work on important, not urgent stuff? Those top 4%, they understood that in order for them to have this single-minded focus on a goal and do the dull and boring stuff, they needed to make time. They need to open their computer at 5 a.m., not clear their inbox, not look at Slack, not view social media, but put a strategy together, to put a plan together, and do the stuff that sits in box 2, do the important, not urgent stuff before work started. Are you able to run that marathon and keep going in relation to all of this stuff and understand that it's not a sprint? So it's a question to you. Can you do it? Is it a yes or is it a no? Now, I have hope. If you're looking at that stuff and thinking again, nah, that's not me. No thanks. I just want to do all the cool, fun, new stuff. Then you have hope. If this is you, then you are a visionary. If you have the ideas, if you're entrepreneurial, if you're great with partnerships and people, big customers, if you do the pitching and you're constantly horizon scanning, you're a visionary. You're like Mark Randolph. You're good at getting things started. You love the chaos, but you need a balance. You need an integrator. You need a number 2, somebody who's good with teams, somebody who's good at delivery, somebody who's good at efficiency, somebody who's good at strategic implementation, actually executing the business strategy that you put together. And most importantly, that's good at managing you. That's good at saying, yes, we can do that brilliant new thing that you've come up with, the 10th idea that you've had this week. We absolutely can do that. Or at least can we discuss it at the end of the quarter when we've completed what we set out to achieve this quarter? The integrator, they run the teams, the delivery, they make the business efficient, they execute the strategy, and they hold you in check whilst you go and do your thing and you drive the business forward. And this is a real thing. Look across successful businesses across the globe. For every visionary, there is an integrator. For every visionary, there is an integrator. So do the test. Is this you? Multiple fledgling businesses, drop internal projects if you don't see results quickly, changing your brand and value proposition regularly, having no focus on a niche, a vertical, or a segment. Do you find it difficult to stick to regular meetings with agendas? Do you call yourself an entrepreneur, always focused on that important, urgent stuff, always firefighting, always clearing your inbox and never really making progress? You're fantasizing about, new business ventures and ideas constantly. You're constantly reinventing the wheel, and you just, you introduce new software, new systems just because of the technology. All right, if that's you, and you want to become the gazelle and you want to be in that top 4%, become the most boring person in the room. It's the only way, or it's not the only way, or find your integrator, find your number 2 to help you to execute it. That's it. That's what the top 4% do differently to the rest. They can handle their own boredom. They do the dull and boring stuff really, really well over and over and over again, or they have a number 2. They have that integrator. If any of this has made sense whatsoever, or it hasn't, and you want to know more, I'd love to hear your feedback. tinyurl.com/VGD feedback. tinyurl.com/VGD feedback. That's it. Anne, over to you.
Thank you, Janusz. You were actually a bit ahead of time, which is always good. So if you stop sharing your screen now, then it will disappear from, and you'll come back to the main. I think I can do that for you. Okay, so I think there's a few questions. If you would like to go to the Q&A section in the chat, yeah, lots of interesting comments. It's really funny when Janusz speaks. I always feel like he's picking on me because I think I think I'm the classic person you've described. Unfortunately, I've already got my integrator, which is Darren, who some of you will know. But thanks very much for that, guys.